What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Crush City Territory. I'm Chandler Rome, along with Tyler Stafford and a special guest, Shawn McFarland, the Texas Rangers beat reporter for the Dallas Morning News, who is in lovely Anaheim, California. Shawn, which Disney ride are you going to ride first?
Oh man, I gotta say, I'm not a Disney guy. I'm not a theme park guy at all. I kind of hate rides. But like a state fair, I'll do a state fair. Like I go there for the food and the animals. I'm not there to see Mickey Mouse and the Tower of Terror. I'll be honest.
You have lost Tyler
Yeah,
immediately.
I can already tell you're not a real one because they've revamped the Disneyland Tower of Terror to now be Guardians of the Galaxy. So it's
Wow, good
embarrassing for
branding.
you.
It's good branding.
Hmm.
Speaking of the Guardians, the
Mm.
Astros just got swept by the Cleveland Guardians at Daikin Park, and that's probably like the eighth most important thing that happened last night, the result. We'll get to Jake Meyers and why he played last night and another indictment on the Astros return to play procedure in a little bit. But we've got Shawn here to discuss the upcoming Lone Star Series between the Astros and Rangers at Daikin Park this weekend. Before we start talking about the Rangers and the Astros, let's talk about Chat BCC. We talked about it last time that we are on Chat BCC, and we have a great giveaway going on right now in the Chat BCC group chat. If you think you know ball, you can prove it in our trivia game for a shot at winning an authentic MLB jersey of your choice. It's worth up to $400. So here's how you enter. You can sign up at foulterritory.chat, play trivia, and you might win. We're picking one winner from the top scorers at random, and the deadline is July 13th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. So get in there, you can play, and you can maybe win an MLB jersey. Again, you can sign up at foulterritory.chat and enter that contest. So, Shawn, this seems like a pretty consequential road trip for the Rangers, who have underperformed all season. They, for some reason, have not hit at all, despite having a roster that you would think would be able to hit. Before we get into why they can't hit, is this a do or die series road trip for the Rangers when it comes to the trajectory of their season and what maybe they'll do at the deadline?
I think so. I mean, and look, they've been running with the line that every game from here until the end of July is important, and that's definitely true, and especially in an American League where that kind of middle glut is so tightly packed and everyone's within a few games of each other. And that's definitely true. That's correct. And a good week can completely separate you from the pack. But I do think, in the sense of showing this front office and this ownership, that this is a team worth investing in and worth buying into. This is an important stretch. You're playing seven straight against divisional opponents. You're going to go into the break on either a really good note or a really bad note. I look at last year when they played the Astros to finish the first half, and I thought it ended on a really high note. Josh Smith had those few homers on Sunday. They went into the break. It felt good, and it kind of felt like, all right, this team might have something. It might be worth buying. That obviously did not materialize into anything in the second half. But I think it's impossible to look at this 10-game stretch they're on that includes San Diego, Anaheim, and next Houston and say that, you know, this won't at least give the front office a sign of what the team's made of.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the middle of the American League West right now is really tight. I mean, somehow the Rangers are in fourth. They're a half game back from the Angels as we record this now. I mean, even with a great road trip, how optimistic is the front office there that, this is a team that shouldn't be selling at the deadline?
I think they like some of the signs they've seen lately. The offense has come back, compared to where it was the first 2 months of the season. It's kind of resurged into something that's at the very least league average these last few weeks. The pitching has largely still held up. It just hasn't translated into wins. They're losing one-run games. They're losing in extras. Last night in Anaheim, they lost 11-8 because they made defensive miscues, and their really good bullpen finally just ran out of gas because it's been so taxed. So I think that's what they're looking at now is, hey, maybe we like some of the stuff under the hood here, but if it doesn't translate into wins at some point, then one, how good is it? And two, is this a team that you're willing to, spend any more money on come July 31st?
I'm getting serious Mariners vibes from this Rangers team from last season, because we all remember the Mariners wasted a generational run of pitching last season, didn't make the playoffs. They couldn't hit. Feels like this is the same refrain for the Rangers this season. The Rangers have the lowest ERA in baseball. And I know obviously Jacob deGrom has been everything that the Rangers expected Jacob deGrom to be and more. Nate Eovaldi is the probably the best big game pitcher going right now, and just a complete stud. Always manages to throw very well against the Astros. But they knew they had those two guys coming in. Shawn, who else has stepped up to help this team have the lowest ERA in baseball?
It's kind of everyone. I mean, look, before he got hurt, Tyler Mahle was having a career season. Patrick Corbin, who they signed like a week before spring training ended, has been like serviceable. He's got somewhere around a low 4 ERA, which when you're signing Patrick Corbin at the end of March for a league minimum, like you'll take that 100 times out of 100. They've gotten hot and cold stretchers from Jack Leiter and Kamar Rocker. I think they've seen positive development signs from both of them, but I don't think either are consistently there yet to be truly relied upon. But if they're your 4 and 5 starters and they can have those flashes, you'll take that. And then it's the bullpen. I mean, look, they rebuilt this bullpen in the offseason. A bunch of veterans. Their most expensive free agent was Chris Martin, who they gave $5.5 million to. Jake Latz has kind of stepped up as this like long man spot starter, and he's been fantastic. It's really been, I think, what they did well is getting these guys around the margins that can come in and step in and produce. And then when you have deGrom and Eovaldi as your 1 and 2, everything kind of falls in line behind that.
Tyler, would you like to guess where Jake Latz went to school?
I assume LSU.
For a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He barely pitched at LSU. He was probably one of the bigger what ifs in LSU baseball history. So talented.
He's more known for his time at Kent State. He's a Kent State guy. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, he transferred to Kent State after that and took off. So I guess the question that everyone has tried to ask this whole season, Shawn, is why can't the Rangers hit? You look at the roster, this is the same roster that they had that won the World Series 2 years ago. What has happened to this offense, and why do they have the 4th lowest OPS in baseball?
I think there's 2 pretty significant reasons. One, their 2 big offseason acquisitions in Jake Berger and Jock Peterson have not hit. I think going into the year, everyone looked at those 2 and said, hey, they fit needs, they hit fastballs, you get a DH, you get a first baseman. Those are 2 kind of holes they had to fill, and neither is produced. And a big reason, not to oversimplify it, but they're both hitting like 150 against fastballs this year. Peterson's obviously hurt, but Jake Berger came in here to mash, to hit fastballs, and he just hasn't done that. The second reason is I think I don't want to say they banked a lot on, but they were hoping for some internal progression from guys like Adolis Garcia, guys like Jonah Heim. You hope that Wyatt Langford would take an all-star leap, and that just hasn't happened yet. Jonah Heim has only gotten worse from the middle of 2023 when he's an all-star. Adolis Garcia runs so hot and cold, he'll have weeks where you look and say, oh, he's back, and you'll have weeks where you look and say, oh, this guy can't hit major league pitching at all. Langford, I think he's kind of finding a groove again, but in most of June, he was really a non-factor. So I think it's those 2 things. Like your 2 big offseason acquisitions just haven't contributed, and you didn't get the internal growth that you were hoping for at all.
Yeah, and Corey Seager started the year really cold. I read your story on his past few games. I pulled it up here. In the last 22 games, he has a 1059 OPS. Has he adjusted anything? Like what happened? Is he just making better contact? What changed for him, and what hope does that give other guys in the Rangers lineup?
Well, Corey would never tell us if he changed anything or what he did. He did tinker with different batting stances for a while back during the midst of his slump. It's pretty clear he found something out. But between him and Marcus Semien, he's been great since the start of June. Those are your 2 horses in the lineup in this position player group, and I think getting them going does make a significant impact. I don't know what it necessarily does for the rest of the team. Look, it lengthens the lineup, and if you can get one or two guys hot at the same time, 'cause that's been the biggest thing, right? It's not, you hope in baseball that you can have half your lineup hot at the same time and work around that. Most of this year, they've had maybe one or two guys hitting well at the same time, and the other seven guys have been non-factors. So I think if you're getting Corey and Marcus back to the position we expect them to be in, and you can get two, three other guys who can find a groove at the same time, you're going to see a more consistent offense. But it's up to at this point, it's up to everyone but Corey and Marcus to find a groove and maintain some level of consistency here.
So if I'm hearing this correctly, the Rangers have an incredible 1-2 punch. They have some, superstars that have been underperforming, and they have a first baseman who they acquired to hit who isn't hitting. Why are the Astros 10 games up on the Rangers? What's the difference? Like what do you look at in this team and just go like, this is what's holding them back, this is what they need to fix?
I think a big part of it, I think when you look at the Astros, there's almost a decade now of winning culture. And I think that matters. And not to say that the Rangers don't have winning players. They obviously do. They won a World Series with this core. But I think that matters when you're looking at turnover and new faces and new guys coming into the clubhouse. I think the Rangers, as great as 23 was, and the steps they made as a franchise that year, look, it still takes more than 1 year to build a culture that can sustain losses, sustain turnover, and keep chugging through whether it's adversity or guys having down years or stars not performing the way you think they will. I think that's a big difference here.
Yeah, and Kevin Pillar, I think, accentuated that pretty well on Foul Territory on the Daily Show when he had some interesting things to say about his brief time with the Rangers this season. I don't want to say that he crushed them because I don't think he intended to do that, and I don't think he was trying to badmouth them. I think he was answering a question pretty honestly and saying, I thought we'd go in there and it'd be a closer clubhouse and it would be guys all pulling together. And he said there was a lot of kind of individualistic things going on. And look, that's not uncommon in any clubhouse. Like, I mean, Astros have guys that have their own hitting coaches that do their kind of their own thing. Like, it's not it's that in and of itself is not uncommon. But how did those comments go over, Shawn? And is it something that, whether it's Chris Young, whether it's Bruce Bochy, that they feel like they need to maybe improve? I don't know if you can improve it this season, but maybe going forward and cultivating something a little bit deeper than just, showing up to the ballpark, doing your job and leaving.
Yeah, I mean, look, one, I don't think the comments made a dent in the locker room necessarily. I don't think anyone was blown away by it because one, to your point, like I don't think Kevin Pillar was trying to bash them, and I don't think it was all wrong either. Look, this is a relatively individualistic group. They were that way in 2023. It worked great. Like this is not a rah rah like let's all hold hands clubhouse, and it never has been. And I think when you're winning and you have that flat line, that not too high, not too low mindset, I think it's great when things are going well. I wonder if things are not going well, is that no longer the most successful mindset? And I think the team is aware of that. And I think Chris Young's made public comments about, hey, maybe we do need a little bit more, I don't know, togetherness, whatever you want to call that. But you're right, Chandler. It's not something that can be fixed at this deadline. And I think it's something that the team is aware of, and I think they think that you know when things are working, like that does work, and it works through their star players. And look, when the star players are going as they are, like good things tend to happen. But it just hasn't materialized this season.
Yeah, and I want to be clear too. Like, the Astros are the furthest thing from a rah rah clubhouse, like hold hands sort of thing either. But I do think a lot of it does distill back to Jose Altuve, who is the best and most decorated player in that clubhouse, and is probably the most selfless and just welcoming and just pillar that you want. And when that is the best guy in the club, when the best guy in the clubhouse, when the best player and the most accomplished player in the clubhouse is also the best dude in the clubhouse, it really permeates an entire room. Like no one's going to, pardon my French, but no one's going to be an a-hole if Jose Altuve, the guy that is on a pedestal, is that nice of a guy. And I'm not here suggesting that the Rangers have that problem or the Rangers have, malcontents in their clubhouse, but I'm just speaking from an Astros perspective and the way that this has helped them to work and get through this. And it's something that there's not a lot of Jose Altuves out there. You're not going to recreate that. You're not going to recreate that at the deadline. You're not going to recreate that in the season. That is a thing that happens over time. And the Astros are very fortunate to be in that position. We'll hear from our friends at Foul Territory, and then we'll talk about hitting coaches, which is a fun topic for everyone on this podcast. But before we talk about the podcast host that is now the Texas Rangers hitting coach, let's hear from our friends at Foul Territory.
Ah, summer. We almost forgot what it feels like to play just because. But even summer needs backup. A little partner in the good kind of chaos. Someone to bring the kung fu kicks. Hiya! To train some dragons. Fly, young dragon rider, fly. The kind of fun that keeps the days going. That turns living rooms into playgrounds. And reminds us what our bodies and our hearts were made for. Play that moves you.
Shawn, no one can accuse Rangers president of baseball operations Chris Young of being, passive, of being kind of waiting on his heels. He is an aggressive guy. He was aggressive at the 23 deadline, and it helped. Very much a guy that when he has something in his mind, he gets it done. They took a pretty drastic step and fired was it offensive coordinator. Is that what they called him? Is that what they called Donnie Ecker?
Yeah, that was the title. Yeah.
As baseball fans are wont to do, anytime an offense is struggling, it's fire the hitting coach. We heard that on this podcast. I heard that on my social media mentions for the first month and a half when the Astros were kind of hovering around 500. The Rangers did it. They fired Donnie Ecker. They brought in Brett Boone, literally off the street. Had never had any coaching experience before, and now he is the Rangers hitting coach. How's that going? Has firing the hitting coach turned the Rangers into an elite offense like many fans claim that would do to their team?
You'll be shocked to hear that no, that didn't happen. No, like I think they wanted to bring in Brett Boone to be a different voice. I think when you had Donnie and Justin Bailey, who's still here, you had two very analytical, driven, and minded guys. Brett Boone is not that. Like it was one of the first things he told us when we first met him in Boston that look, I'm not a numbers guy. I'm a hitter. I'm a guy who likes to talk ball. And I think they thought that would balance out kind of the voices these guys were around. And I don't necessarily hate that concept of bringing in a guy who's been here and he's done that. He's gone through struggles and maybe they just another sounding board. But the reality is it hasn't worked. In at least in a meaningful way. Yeah, there have been some flashes. Yes, it's marginally better overall now versus before. But I think at some point, and we all know this, at some point it's on the players. This front office, they've fired guys, they've hired guys, they've optioned guys, they've changed the lineup a billion times over, and it still hasn't resonated. I think at that point you got to look and say it's on these players to step up and take accountability and handle this themselves, because I don't really know outside of looking at the deadline and making significant changes. I'm not sure what more this front office and this coaching staff can do to get the best out of this offense at this point.
So, I mean, as we are, approaching the deadline here, and as the Rangers are trying to figure out what they want to do, I'm assuming this is, unless they just win 7-8 games in a row here, that they're not going to go all in on the team that they have currently. Now they have signed a lot of guys to long-term extensions, so there's a core of the Rangers team there. Where do you see them being able to, acquire some talent or make improvements? What are they looking for if it's not this year that maybe they can look to 2026 or whatever and revamp, not necessarily rebuild, because again they have a core that just won a World Series 2 years ago. So what are they looking for at the deadline?
I think if they do decide this is a team that they believe in and they want to move forward and buy into this season, like I think they want to add relief pitching. They want to reinforce that bullpen, as does, every team in baseball. But here's the thing. I don't think they're comfortable pushing that CBT line right now. They're not going to go up to that tax. I think if they do decide they're going to sell, they're not going to move off those core pieces. You're not going to see Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, whoever. Like those, when you think about the core and the foundation, you're not going to see those guys traded. I think it's those like mid-tier veterans, the Adolis Garcias, the Jonah Heims, those guys who can provide a little financial relief and maybe get you something back in return, that would be the ones that do wind up on the block. And honestly, even if they decide that, hey, we do want to play this out, I still wouldn't be surprised if, like, you see a reshuffling of that tier of veterans and maybe you trade from your strengths to reinforce a weakness. And so I think that's the most likely route they end up going down. But there's not going to be, this team, I don't think, will look drastically different come August 1st, regardless of which route they take.
And a lot of that is going to depend on the series this weekend at Daikin Park. The first pitching matchup's fine. It's Lance McCullers and Jack Leiter, one ascendant pitcher and one that has pitched in big games before, and it's still
couple of nepo babies there.
Correct. two sons of former big leaguers. Oh man, I hope they don't listen to that. The last two though, Framber Valdez, Jacob deGrom, and then Hunter Brown and Nate Eovaldi. That's
the good stuff.
That is
That's
the
awesome.
good stuff.
That's
awesome.
Going to be
appointment television for both of those. How cool is it to watch Jacob deGrom pitch?
That was going to be my next question. So
Yeah.
What is it like to watch a full, healthy season of Jacob deGrom?
It's unbelievable, man. I mean, I remember so my first year on the beat was 2023. So my first game was opening day and Jacob deGrom pitch. And it's one of those things where like when you're around Major League Baseball players, like every guy in this field is an incredible athlete. They're incredible what they do. They're here, yada yada. All these things are here for a reason. And then you watch a guy like Jacob deGrom pitch, and you can like palpably see that he is on a different planet than even like other world class athletes. And that's just how it feels watching him pitch. And even, he pitched Tuesday night in Anaheim, and like it was a bad night for him. He was off. He was walking more guys. He couldn't locate his slider. And even when he has like a quote unquote off or bad night, it's still like the baseline is just so high. And it's really been a treat to watch him. And I think it's really cool. One, for him, I think you can tell how much it means to him to be healthy and performing like this. And you can tell the All-Star nomination meant a lot to him. But like, it is cool to see, like, the Rangers made a big investment in this guy. Like, they wanted him to be part of, like, rebuilding this pitching staff, building this culture. And, like, it is cool to see that come to fruition, albeit it took 2 years. But, like, it's cool to see that vision come together of, like, you go out, you give Jacob deGrom big money so that he can go out there and pitch like this.
Would you like to take a guess at what his whiff percentage is on his slider?
Oh, God.
It's silly. I mean, just ridiculous. It is 37.5%.
I was gonna say 40. That's not, yeah.
And his fastball, his four-seam fastball, he gets 21.4% whiffs. Yeah. That's stupid. That a fifth of the time he throws a fastball to a major league hitter, they're swinging through it. Like he's unbelievable. It's so fun to watch him be healthy and be able to put up these numbers, because again, it's a guy who we talked about what ifs guys of whoever you said from LSU, but this is a real one of like, my goodness, when he is healthy, like this is a just inner circle baseball talent. It's so much fun to watch.
I'm a big environment person. Like when a guy like that goes on the mound, I'm big about like warm up music and kind of what it sets the tone. When Verlander was here and he would come out till I collapse, like it was like, oh man, like you stood up and you're like, oh man, this is gonna be something. Jacob deGrom warms up to Simple Man by Leonard Skinner, and it is one of the coolest things.
Dude,
when
it goes so hard.
When he ran out there to pitch against Hunter Brown in May, and I was like, oh my God, this is some incredible stuff. And then he went out there and just absolutely shoved. The thing about him that is, and I think I've seen Bruce Bochy talk about it before too. Like you can talk, I mean, he can reach 100. The slider's disgusting. The changeup's disgusting, but it's the command.
Mm-hmm.
23 guys all year. Like it's elite stuff, but he puts it exactly where he wants it. And it is like nothing you've ever seen before, because like, look, we're watching Hunter Brown become an ace this year. We've watched it all season and he's been very good, but there are still times where like he'll spray the ball and like he'll walk 3 or 4, but like he's got such good stuff that he'll get out of it. But to watch deGrom do this with maybe the best stuff in baseball and be able to put it exactly where he wants, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, Chandler, it's like, so you talk to players and like you ask, oh, what do you like about this guy? And like you'll get a mixed bag of answers, like, oh, I like this, I like that. If you ask any pitcher in that Rangers clubhouse, like, oh, what do you like about deGrom? What's the most impressive thing? Like, there's no hesitation. It's fastball command. We talked to Mike Maddox this week, and the pitching coach after deGrom made the All-Star team, and like, same thing. He's like, it's the fastball command. It's pinpoint. It is unbelievably laser accurate. And I think, when you talk about these guys like Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker being in this clubhouse and pitching with and in and around deGrom, like that's the one thing, like, if they can learn just 1% of how to command your fastball from Jacob deGrom, like that's a massive step for these young guys to be around. But no, seriously though, the Leonard Skinner Simple Man, like when he walks up to that at Globe Life Field, it's like I get chills. Like it's one of those things, like, you can kind of, especially pregame, you can kind of like, you get stuck working or whatever. It's like one of those things where it's like, no, I'm going to set aside like 2 full minutes to watch this dude walk out and like listen to the strum of that guitar. It's unbelievable.
It's the same thing with Verlander and Eminem. Like and Till I Collapse has those like iconic first couple notes too. And like when those played, you just kind of like stood up and you were like transfixed on what he was doing. It's something like you have to be there to like understand what we're talking about. It's crazy.
Well, I famously played guitar for someone in high school for the pop show for them to sing Simple Man. So if Jacob deGrom needs me to grab mine and play that live, I still got it down, ready to go. I did want to mention I was oogling over Jacob deGrom's fastball whiff rate, and I was like, that's got to be way up there. So his fastball whiff rate was 21.4%, which is still insane. Hunter Brown's is 33.8. What? Like what is happening? How is that possible to swing and miss that often on a fastball? So you're right, Chandler. I mean, we're watching a guy this year become one of those guys that you just you make an appointment viewing to watch them. This is going to be a good series. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to determine a lot for the Rain. The Astros are in a little bit better spot, and then 6.5 games up as we record this. Losing 2 out of 3, especially if you face deGrom and Eovaldi on back-to-back days, it's not going to be the end of the world. Obviously, the Astros would love to win 2 of 3 or sweep, but they have put themselves in a position where they don't have to, necessarily, win at all costs. Look, they want to win. Don't get me wrong, but like they're in an advantageous position of they've banked a ton of wins. They had a great June, and this series is not going to determine the trajectory of their deadline plans or their season like it will the Rangers. Shawn, one more before we get you out of here. Is this Bruce Bochy's last year?
He's given no indication one way or another. So I obviously won't. I really can't get a read on it. Like he's really done a great job of hiding his cards, and the front office has. Like me, if I were in Bruce Bochy's position as a 70-year-old, like it would probably be my last year. But like we know these guys. Like these guys love love being around the game. It's hard for them to walk away. And like, look, like Boch does love being out there, even as much as like the season has been a grind. So I don't know. Again, he has really not tipped his hand at all. Um, if I had to bet, I'd say it's his last year, but there's no like reporting on that. That's just me making assumptions. But these guys. It's hard for them to walk away. They love being around baseball.
I'm 32 and I'm trying to retire. What are you
Yeah.
doing, Bruce?
And then I wonder too how much that influences how aggressive Chris Young's going to be too, because like you've got maybe the best manager of the modern era on your bench, and like you said, like he's 70 years old. If this isn't his last year, then it's his days as a manager are probably numbered. How does that influence like you? Just like you don't want to waste. You don't like. We talk about this from a player perspective all the time. Like, oh, you only have this many years of prime Jacob deGrom or this many years of prime Aaron Judge. So like you have to be aggressive every deadline to make sure you seize advantage of that small window. Like how much does that factor into that? Like you probably only have a couple more years of Bruce Bochy and you want to put the best foot forward to let, maybe the best manager of the modern era, do what he can do.
No, that's a great point, Chandler, because look, if he leaves next year or the year after that, like there's a pretty good chance that whoever they replace him with won't be as good as Bruce Bochy. Maybe eventually, but look, the things that Bochy is able to do and able to handle after 3 decades managing, like you can't replicate that, especially in a playoff race, a playoff chase. When you get to October, like watching him navigate things in 2023 was unbelievable. With that bullpen that was god awful all year that became suddenly locked down. Like those are things that whenever a new manager does come in, you're not going to have that ability. So I think it's true that like, look, if they see a window to compete this year, continue competing next year, like I do think Chris Young and this front office, this ownership group has like shown that like they will push if the team gives them the signs that's worth pushing for. So that's the biggest thing, but I don't think they're going to. I think last year they, in hindsight, probably would have handled the deadline differently. But they're coming off a World Series, and they thought, well, the core is still here. Maybe we can make a second half revival. That didn't happen. They're not going to make that mistake again this year if they don't see the signs they need to see come July 31st.
Just one last question here. Definitely no reason for me bringing this up. When a Rangers player gets hurt, do they come back and play at some point, or do they get cast into the shadow realm? Just out of curiosity, what happens to Rangers players when they're injured?
Well, if you ask Rangers fans, a guy will get injured and they'll say, oh, it's just, we think we'll be down for a few days. Then a few days later, they get more testing done. It's like, oh, it's actually going to be a month. And then Rangers fans believe that the front office is actually out to get the fans, and this is actually a whole big plot and a scheme to go after the team. So that's kind of the time we're working on over here is that people don't believe in the concept of like developing information and new medical data. So I guess it's just not it's maybe not what we do in baseball in the state of Texas.
Yeah. We got some imaging issues here, I think, is the problem. We need like a 4K monitor somewhere for these doctors in Texas to get better imaging. I think we can all agree on that.
I think that's the least of the Astros' concerns. Imaging is the least of their concerns at this point. Shawn, this was fun. I appreciate you taking some time to preview what is a huge series for the Rangers and what is, well, just a series to end the really, really good first half for the Astros. So we will see you at Daikin Park this weekend. Saturday and Sunday should be, again, a huge treat. If you guys, I'm not here to shill for the Astros, but if you can get a ticket Saturday or Sunday to go watch Framber Valdez pitch against Jacob deGrom and then Hunter Brown against Nate Eovaldi, you won't see two better pitching matchups in the regular season this season. So if you can get out there, see greatness in person on both sides. But Shawn, you'll be there. Appreciate you taking some time, and good luck in Disneyland. Go ride your favorite ride and text Tyler
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. This was fun.
Thanks.
All right, Tyler, we got to talk about Jake Meyers again.
Okay, that's what we're going to talk about. I thought you were setting up something else that you were.
No. Look, what happened last night, Wednesday night at Daikin Park. For those that did not watch or that are unaffiliated with what's going on, Jake Meyers had missed Monday and Tuesday's game with what the Astros described as right calf tightness. They worked him out in right field on Tuesday prior to the game. Joe Espada said that he still struggled to change direction, said that there was still some discomfort. Jake Meyers did the same thing on Wednesday, worked out in right field before the game. Trainer was there, strength coach was there, Joe Espada was there. They deemed him ready to play, put him in the lineup. He ran out to his position before the first inning and crumpled to the ground in pain with the right calf. They did not even take him to the clubhouse. They took him to the right field loading dock where they put him on a cart. He could put not a ton of weight on his right leg. He needed assistance from a trainer to walk off the field. Tyler, I feel like we're going to talk the same stuff we did about the Jordan Alvarez thing about a couple months ago. But the only thing that I can really say at this point is something is wrong. There is something wrong here. And I am not smart enough to know what it is. I have no medical training. I don't want to act like a doctor or a trainer or a strength coach here, but this is happening too much for this to be a coincidence. And something is not right in the way that the Astros either evaluate their injuries, prepare their players to return from injuries, or analyze the data during these rehabs that they were bringing these players back, because this is another instance in which you have to question everything about their return to play procedure.
Am I allowed to answer this?
Yeah, go ahead. I don't care.
Oh, I was just doing the Jake Myers.
Oh God. Poor Jake. He handled it as well as he could.
That was a clip for sure of just looking off into the distance. Am I allowed to answer this? That's all I got for it. I mean, he's clearly in a ton of pain. You don't react to a question of did this hurt worse than it did a few days ago that way, unless it is way worse. I don't know. So you're right. Something has to change, even if it's just eyewash at this point. I know we make fun of people for what are you talking about? The batting coach, everybody's doing their job. They got to do something, but something fundamentally has to change with the way that the Astros approach injuries and returning players to the field, because it's not working. It just isn't. There is no player that you can point to in the last couple of years of this guy was hurt and we got him back on time and there's been no other issues. It's every time somebody is injured, something like this happens. It's ridiculous, and something has to change. I don't know what it is. I don't own a baseball team. I don't run a medical department, so I cannot give advice. All I can say is you cannot keep the status quo with this. It's embarrassing for your organization. I mean, at this point where it happens too often for it to be a coincidence.
Yeah.
And I don't know where in the chain something is going wrong, but you, as the sassy British lady said, you have to find the weakest link and figure out what it is, and change it, because this is just not working.
Yeah, and I want to be clear too. And I tried to make this point in what I wrote this morning. And look, we just talked to Shawn, and Shawn said that the Rangers there's similar things that happen with the Rangers of, they give this diagnosis and then, actually it's this. And so this is not setbacks are not uncommon in baseball. They happen every day. Teams alter timelines for their players to return every day. That is not an Astros problem. It happens. Everybody heals.
My favorite line of yours. We need a t-shirt.
They all heal at their different paces. Rehabs are not linear. No injury is created equal. every person has a different timeline or method of healing. But you just said it. They have had too many of these instances to where you can no longer call this a coincidence. And they lost the benefit of the doubt a long time ago. If they didn't lose it with the Kyle Tucker shin fiasco, they lost it with the Jordan Alvarez hand fracture. And, even the Jeremy Pena injury, which on the surface appeared to be handled pretty seamlessly, he went and worked out. Like, he got hit on a Friday, went and worked out in the weight room with weighted balls on Saturday. They said, okay, like, he looks good. Let's have him swing on Sunday. He swung on Sunday, and they're like, oh, it hurts a little bit. They sent him for imaging, and that imaging revealed a fracture. They took imaging earlier and again, I'm not sitting here trying to be a radiologist. I understand that fractures sometimes don't appear on the first image. Like, I get that there's a lot of layers here, but there have been too many of these instances for this to be brushed off as just, oh, it's baseball, or oh, it's medicine, or oh, it's just tough. And look, maybe it is. Maybe the Astros are just the unluckiest team in the sport, and they have had all of these setbacks that are just nothing can be done about them, and they have just so happened to happen to their high profile players. Maybe that's the case. If that is the case, someone needs to come out and say it, because they have created a PR mess, and it has become one of these things that it's bordering on untenable. And this is a situation where something is going to have to change, and it's becoming increasingly likely that, like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, there is going to have to be some measures taken. And it's probably going to be after the season. They're going to have to look at everything. And I'm not sitting here saying that jobs are going to be lost or anything like that. Please don't misunderstand me. They've got to get to the root of why this is happening. And once they figure it out, they have to have some semblance of transparency and discuss it, because as they stand right now, like, they have lost all benefit of the doubt when it comes to injuries and bringing their players back.
It took 26 months for Luis Garcia to start a minor league rehab start, recovering from Tommy John surgery. By the time, hopefully, he comes back later on this season, there will have been 6 Marvel movies released since the last time that he pitched, and that's how I measure time. So again, something is going on here. Something has to change. You can't keep doing this, and I can't keep talking about it because it raises my heart rate and it makes me very angry. And all these guys are losing time. Like, Jake Meyers wants to be playing. Lance McCullers wanted to exist for the last 3 years. Luis Garcia would like to throw a pitch. Jordan doesn't want his hand to hurt. Jeremy Pena would like to be able to breathe, I would imagine. All of these people want to come back and play. It's not that the Astros have a culture issue and these guys just are, hanging out and don't want to play. Like, something is going on that is just not working. And it has to change, and it has to change now. I mean, this is embarrassing.
And I hate to put it like this, but let's also be real here. The only person that can enact this sort of change and that can really, like, get to the root of this is the owner. Like, this is something that I believe, and you can correct me if you think I'm wrong here, Tyler. I think this goes above Dana Brown. I think this is above a baseball operations sort of thing. This is a fundamental thing that is higher than that. And
for sure,
Jim Crane this is a situation where, look, he is a shrewd businessman. He has made a ton of money. He has a ton of he's been very successful in logistics. He has been one of, if not the most successful sports owner in Houston sports history. Like, he is he is very, very shrewd at what he does. And I hate to put it like this, but this is how he may view this. These are his most valuable assets. Like, he is paying Jordan Alvarez a lot of money. Jeremy Pena is the most valuable player on this billion-dollar enterprise that Jim Crane now owns. You know, he's paying
way
Lance
more than $1 billion.
Of course. He's paying Lance McCullers, 18, $19 million. Like, and you'd never want to identify players by that. Like, you don't want to call, like, just use players as assets or use players as money figures. But at the end of the day, that's kind of how a lot of this is viewed. And I think when Jim Crane looks at it through that prism, I think he'll understand that, like, there has to be some sort of audit done. There has to be some sort of examination as to why his most valuable assets to a franchise that, as you said, is worth multiple billions of dollars, why these most valuable assets can't get on the field, why they can't keep them on the field, and why when they do come back on the field, they're off a short time later.
You remember Christian Javier?
I do.
He used to play for the Astros. He's making $12 million. Not on the team. Fun fact that I just added it up for you. I just took the top 6 earners. There's 15 people currently on the injured list. Just the top 6 is $44 million that Jim Crane is paying this season to not have on the field. Well, actually, there's probably more than that because we're not including Jose Abreu, but that doesn't count. I'm talking about guys who are on the roster that they are not paying, or they are paying to not play right now, and you have no confidence that they will come back healthy and ready to go at any sort of timeline. They could say anything, and until that person, normally I would say, is on the field, but I guess that doesn't even count. They have to actually start a game. They can't even jog out to center field and me think, okay, they're ready to go. I got to see them play a few innings apparently, but they're just like we said, it's not working, and something has to change. But speaking of injured pitchers, do you want to wrap up here with our last little segment?
Yeah, we'll dive into our DraftKings player segment, and perhaps fittingly, we're going to talk about Lance McCullers Jr. So, Tyler, it's our DraftKings player spotlight, and Lance McCullers has a big task ahead of him starting Friday night for a team that could use some good news and for a team that could use a boost, because we just talked about the Jake Meyers injury was pretty deflating. He runs out there, and before first pitch, he's on the ground on all fours. Lance is no stranger to big games. He's no stranger to pitching in big environments. I imagine Daikin Park will be packed on Friday night against the Rangers. Just pitched at Dodger Stadium, went pretty well for him. What do you think about Lance McCullers going in this opener against the Texas Rangers?
So McCullers, it has always been a guy that feels like steps up for big games, and I feel like a Friday night start against the Rangers, that's one that he's got some extra adrenaline going. He's had 5 starts this year. 2 of them have just been real stinkers. And the others have been good. The interesting thing is when you look at McCullers over his career, he's been a significantly better pitcher at home. He has a 3.08 ERA in his career at home and a 4.21 ERA away. But this year it's been the exact opposite. Again, very, very small sample size, but in 4 away games this season, he has a 0.46 ERA, and 5 home starts, he has an 11.37 ERA. Now, again, super small sample size, and when you look at his career, that's not something that you would expect going forward, but you would like to see a really good home start from Lance. So when I'm looking at the DraftKings props for pick 6, I am going to go with over 4.5 strikeouts for Lance, even with his rough starts. He's almost always over 4 or 5 strikeouts, and specifically with the Rangers lineup, they're middle of the road as far as strikeout rate goes, but they have a lot of switch hitters and lefties, and Lance strikes out lefties at a much higher percentage than he does righties. He's always had those, reverse splits there. And so he's probably going to have 4, maybe 5 guys batting left-handed against him on Friday. So I'm going to take the over on strikeouts there, hoping to see a rebound from him at home, coming off a great start against the Dodgers, where again, that's an adrenaline pumping game. He gets up for those. I expect to see the same against the Rangers.
Yeah, that's good stuff, Tyler. And as always, this is where you go. You can go to Pick Six, and Pick Six from DraftKings is the most fun way to play fantasy sports. Download the DraftKings Pick Six app now and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL for new customers to get a special sign-up offer. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick Six from DraftKings.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick Six not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see picksix.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, Tyler. How do you size up this series this weekend? Jeremy Pena is probably not.
Good Lord. I don't want him at the park. I want him in a bubble somewhere.
Yeah, Joe Espada revealed on, again, not a surprise, on Wednesday that Pena's not. He will go to the All-Star game in Atlanta, but he's not going to play. Jordan Alvarez is not going to play. I would be floored if Jake Meyers plays, but who knows at this point. It's going to be a pretty lean lineup. They're going to need Jose Altuve to do what he did in the Guardians series, which is pretty much be the only guy that contributed anything. They're about to face Jack Leiter, who no-hit them into the 7th inning in Arlington earlier this year, and then Jacob deGrom and Nate Eovaldi on back-to-back days. It will not be easy for this lineup, but the Astros are throwing their 3 best starting pitchers at a Rangers lineup that, as we just talked about, cannot hit. So what early thoughts and how do you see this series going?
Take 2 or 3. That's what you got to do every series. You look into it, and yeah, the Rangers have their 2 best starters going Saturday and Sunday, but so do the Astros. And theoretically, the Astros have a better team. It's essentially Sugarland's roster right now, so I don't know how much you can, really put into that. Who knows who's going to be in the lineup? I was looking it up. The Astros have played 93 games this year. Would you like to take a guess at how many different lineups they have used over 93 games?
I'm going to go with 82.
88.
Wow.
They have not used a single lineup more than twice. So, this is a team that keeps getting it done with who knows what's happening. Look, I don't even know who's on the team at this point, other than I know for some reason Cesar Salazar is on the team, and he doesn't get to play. Poor guy. Just sitting in there getting iPad time, I would assume. I'm not sure what he's doing in there, but they got to make it through the series. But you play with the guys that you have, and you still have, like you said, Jose Altuve in your lineup. You've got a lineup that has been getting hotter. You need to see Christian Walker, make some noise. Yiner's been putting together some better at bats lately. You can always count on an 8-pitch walk from Isaac Paredes at some point in the game. You got to make these guys work, but like we said, you're not going to get any of these starters out early, and even if you do, the Rangers have had a good bullpen. It's going to take a lot. I expect to see a lot of back and forth in this series, but you have to go in with the expectation of winning 2 out of 3.
Yeah, I'm not going to make any bold predictions about this because I said all 3 games against the Guardians would be low scoring, and that was not the case. I said that the Guardians could not hit. That was also not the case. So no one tunes in.
You said Jake Meyers was healthy. You're just a liar. We also spent a lot of time talking up Hunter Brown and Josh Hader, and then they gave up a combined 10 runs. Our bad. So
yeah, I don't know why anyone listens to this for. No, certainly not for baseball intellect. With that being said, please rate and review us on Apple. Please rate us on Spotify. You can leave a comment on a Spotify episode if you want. You can subscribe on YouTube to the Crush City Territory YouTube channel so you can get notified every time we post a new pod. We will be back later this week with another special guest to discuss maybe the future of the Astros and kind of how they may navigate at the trade deadline. As always, you can follow me at Chandler_Rome on X. You can follow Tyler at Tyler C. Stafford. And we will talk to you after the Ranger series. Thanks, guys.
Y'all aren't going to believe who's going to be on this podcast. Subscribe so you can see the next episode. Bye.